one of the tools that I love to use right now is if somebody needs an answer right away, then my answer is no. And that's a very powerful one, because that time that I take is so sacred to me now. There's always time for even just like 5 seconds to pause and just breathe it out. We're working with practitioners to be able to bridge that gap of working in a clinic and building their brand I love that work.
And I can see a lot of people benefiting from the support of that, because it's one thing to know what you want to do, or it's one thing to even know where you're feeling constricted or confined, and it's a whole other thing to start that journey of growth and becoming, and start to build something new for yourself. And you were able to do that. You were able to find that pathway, because you went from that place where you were talking about, where you had a space and there were people renting from you, then you went through a really big shift. Can you tell me a little bit about some of that shift that you went through?
Oh, I'm like, which shift, Krista? Like, there seems to be so many.
Well, you changed locations, and if I can add in a little bit here, I remember like one of the things happening at that time was that it almost felt like a breakdown, but it was actually a breakthrough. Right. It felt like what you had built was coming apart, but it was actually reorganizing, if I'm reading that right.
You know, in a very energetic way, the only way that I can explain it was that my time was just expired in that building. I just couldn't, it just took so much effort to drive that business there. And luckily enough, my lease was up, and I was like, am I ready to just let all of this square footage go and start fresh? And that was the answer. It was just not to renew my lease and hand it over to somebody who can steward it, break it up into many different businesses. Some of the existing practitioners that came on board post-COVID to rent space for me took it over. And it was just like an easy, again, that's one of the things where it's just like when it's aligned and it's a fast kind of like decision and things kind of click into place like a puzzle as fast as they do, that's where that potency is. And that's kind of where I just ride the coattails of that and be like, okay, let's go. And I remember knowing that our lease was coming up, I took one of my colleagues with me and we were just shopping around for square footage anywhere. And, you know, that mentality of like, oh, but Sherwood Park is going to be so far for ourselves and our clients. And at the same time, there was so many more almost like bells and whistles of freedom that we can feel just driving there. Like we just had to take the Henday to drive to Sherwood Park. We didn't have to go through the city. So even though it seemed like a longer distance, it actually takes less time. And actually what I found when I did move to Sherwood Park, that a good percentage of my clientele actually lived in Sherwood Park. Oh my gosh. So they were like, thank God you're coming out here. And I was like, I didn't even know. I have to interject because I just find it so amazing that isn't it funny that a lot of the times we think something's going to be harder or it's not going to work out, or we start coming up with all of these reasons why something can't happen. And the reality is we don't even know what's already aligned for us. Like your clients are actually already there. I mean, come on. I know.
What's the chances of that?
It was really interesting. Even when we did take a look at the space that was available, it felt like the space that I had in Skona. It had a studio space. It had like a lunchroom, a kitchen space, a sink space, and then we had like 2 treatment rooms. And just that feeling alone of seeing that square footage, even though I know I can make it work, I was like, it just feels too much of the same. And then the landlord of the building took us just to 1 treatment room that was just, I don't know, under 1,000 square feet. And I was like, can we share that room? And the answer was yes. Like it felt so good where it's just like, wow, I just moved from, I don't even know how much square footage I had, just to 1 treatment room to condense that. It was scary, but at the same time, it lit me up. And there was a sense of freedom in it that I was like, okay, now we have a spot. Now we have to decide our schedule because we're sharing one room.
Yeah, and I feel like there is no ability to grow further in our individual direction for what's aligned for us without meeting some of that fear as well. And so I love that you leaned into, okay, this feels a little bit scary, but also recognizing, hey, there's some freedom here that wouldn't be possible. Like some of the things that you're developing now and some of the things you're moving into in your business now and the way that you're supporting your clients, you might not have had the capacity to do that if you were still in the other place serving so many practitioners. And
I wouldn't have been able to see it fast, or the idea wouldn't have come to be as clear.
Does the shift that you made, does it also support your goals with your family? Like the way that you want to show up as a mom?
100%. I think that is one of the things that I love to experience myself when either if it's a shift in business and a decision that has been made for business, it bleeds into many areas of my life, and especially with my family. There's this, it's just funny how that works out. I can't even explain it. It's just like, yeah, it does. And if I make a decision with the family, it directly affects my business.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's not in a bad way. It's almost like a good pause to just question, does it feel right for me? And having the opportunity or the freedom to just question that and pause and then decide.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned, working with you, Krista, is I can sit here and tell myself, like, I just want more time and I want more space and time freedom. But being able to give myself that over a long period of time, like years, it's taken time to cultivate that and be able to really feel what that means to me.
Yeah.
To slow down and just pause. I'm like, oh, now I'm actually doing it. I'm not just saying it.
There's such a shift from like knowing the language and the words and all of that to actually moving into a space inside where it's integrated. And I think that a lot of people want things to happen quickly, or they want to find the magic, whatever it is, and it's going to take not a lot of time, not a lot of investment, but the reality is that anything worthwhile, like if we actually want to shift our inner programs and we actually want to bring online, abundance and time freedom while still upholding our relationship values with our family and still serving the needs of our clients, it is going to ask something deeper of us.
Yeah.
And you leaned in. Like, you have to give yourself credit, because there are a lot of people who talk about it, but you actually decided to face the music in your life.
Thank you. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure I can be honest. I talked about it for quite a while until, the funny thing is that like, you don't even realize you're doing it until you can sit and contemplate and be like, oh, I'm already doing the thing that I thought I was scared to do. And maybe it is just the little portion of it that you've tweaked, but it gives you that window to do it more if that's the way that if that's the path that you want to take.
Yeah, I think, when I hear you talk, I hear a lot of reflection and the ability now to pause when you notice certain patterns arising. You have the ability to say, okay, is that serving the bigger picture of what I'm envisioning for my life? And is it helping me to meet all of the needs of my life, or just one need?
Yeah.
Because I think that the reality, like for business owners, especially women in business who are, serving a lot of people and helping a lot of clients at the same time, maybe with staff under them and that type of thing, who are moms and partners and all of that. It's a lot, and what might be best for the business might not be best for the family or the home life.
Yeah,
so being able to met that out and figure out, where do I really want to put my time and energy? Like that's not an overnight process.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, like when you look now at the people that you're serving, the way that you've aligned your family and your personal needs and wants, like for somebody else who might be in a business or being a mom and that type of thing, what would be one piece of advice that you would share to support them in their journey?
One of the tools that I love to use right now is if somebody needs an answer right away, then my answer is no. So, and that's a very powerful one, because that time that I take just to think about it or is so sacred to me now, that now I can actually with integrity say, like, if you need an answer right away, the answer is no. And then it lights me up, like, even just to say that, like, there's a pit in my stomach where I'm just like, ooh, that feels bad. But at the same time, my heart's like, I can breathe, you know? So that's one of the things that I would probably tell someone who has to wear many hats at all times. Like, if they ever have to make a decision, you know, take that time to pause and reflect and just sense how your body is feeling, and know that no answer needs to be given right then and there. Like, there's always time for even just like 5 seconds to pause and just breathe it out.
Yeah, like, really. So what I'm hearing you say is really intuit. Like, if you have the answer, you have the answer. If you know if it's a yes or a no, it's there. But if somebody is pressuring you to make an answer or to give them a response or to show up in a certain way and you're not clear on it, take as much time as you need to be clear so that you know how to respond. Like, in human design, I know that there are people who are splenic authority. Splenic authority means that they have instantaneous, like, intuitive, they work in the moment. They get a lot of clarity right in the moment. But there are other human design governances within us that take a lot longer to come to that same clarity. And so we're not all the same. We're not all the same. So what I'm hearing you say is listen to yourself and trust yourself first and foremost, and don't say yes to things that don't align. Yeah,
and really just feel it out for yourself. Like, that's probably one of the things that I teach clients, and when I mentor other massage therapists too, is like, does it feel right for you? We know what the rules are with the industry. We know what, you know, we know possibly what's right and what's wrong, but how are you sensing that? Sometimes something that's wrong can feel right.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so it's just taking the pause to, like, understand what that feels like for you, and everybody's going to have a different response too. So
I think our acuity grows with that over time too, where we can start to learn, like, my first response is a yes, but when I give myself more time, it's a maybe not right now. Is that what like, just kind of building more
and
of that?
it will change, you know? And I think what I would like people not to get into is, like, having this sense of, like, guilt or regret, you know, which is why I love taking the time to decide when I have the time to decide, or if that's given to me. And if an answer needs to be answered right away and I don't have the capacity to make a decision, then I'll say no. And that itself is a decision.
And that is so beautiful, because, like, there was a time where that wouldn't have been the case.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we were just talking about this, like, before this, where it would have been like, what do you need? How high? And, like, jumping into support and jumping into help, because you're a very nurturing, caring person who you can see how things fit together, and you want to help people, and you want to give people support. And I think a lot of us do. A lot of us want to, you know, if our family asks us for help, or if in our business we can see someone needs help, we want to jump in and we want to do the thing.
This is true.
But it's like, is that in service? Is that a true service? Or is that doing anyone at any part of this equation a disservice? Namely, is it doing me a disservice?
Yeah.
In which case, it's going to probably do other people a disservice too, even if I can't see that right now.
Right? I know. And family is a tricky one. I mean, there are loopholes and things that I know that we have to stretch ourselves for, right? But if that ever happens, I mean, like, there's the tools in your toolbox.
The tools in your toolbox.
Go back to kind of, like, help reground.
And I think stretching is normal. And like you say, especially with family, I mean, especially anybody who's got a child, you know, like, that journey alone will stretch you more than anything else. And as it stretches you, it helps you to learn your limits, to learn your boundaries, to learn better self-regulation and self-care. Like, all of that can be a teacher to some degree as we go along the path. And I think we get better and better at recognizing our capacity and better at showing up in support for our family, even at a stretch. But it takes time to learn that, because we don't start off with that programming. We don't start off with that knowledge. We learn it as we go. And in anything, we have to kind of learn directly. Yeah. We have to learn directly through experience too.
Yeah. And it takes some time for us to kind of just feel like, you know, when I look back and I think about like how many times did I tell myself like, I don't like the way this is working. And the default was to always just go back to the original program and then stay there longer, right?
What's the default now?
The default now is saying no, or not even saying anything at all, and that's an answer on its own. Yeah, the default is the pause.
Yeah, because the pause, like from what I know of you, when you have that pause come in, it's almost like instead of just saying, okay, like this isn't working, you're now like, this isn't working, and how can I work with this so that it does work? Or where can I start to make some shifts and changes? Like instead of it being like this isn't working and it just sits in the background, which I think when we're busy and overwhelmed, a lot of us do. We just kind of like, I know it's not working, but I don't know what to do about it, so I'll wait until it blows up and then we'll fix it then, or we'll deal with the pieces at the end of it. Whereas the other opportunity is to say, oh, something is not working. What can I do? And we empower ourselves to turn to it and look at it and start to navigate differently with more grace.
And just being able to see it, you know, whatever the circumstances is, like, what can you control and what don't you have any control over? And then just start asking yourself questions of like, okay, if this is what's being dealt to me, then what can I do?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I almost feel like a lot of times we'll get partway up the mountain of whatever it is we're building or growing or doing in our life, and then we hit like this big boulder. Yeah. And we're partway up the mountain, and I know for a lot of people that boulder is, I can't do this, or this isn't going to work out. When really it might just be, okay, so what are the pathways that go around this boulder? Like, what have I not thought of yet? What other options are there? How else could I still achieve the goal of serving people or helping people or being there for my family, where at the same time, like, it's just not going to be that way that I initially thought it was going to be. It's going to be a different way. Yeah. And that is so empowering to have within your nervous system and within your thought process. There's always a way up the mountain. It just might not be the path that I thought it was going to take.
Right. Yeah, that is so true. And when you even say that, you know, like, I can remember times not too long ago, I still even do it now, where it's just like, I love pressure. I work best under pressure. And that was one of the
now.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that I had to retrain my brain around was, and no, you don't have to, because it doesn't feel good for me to be in a pressure cooker and work under pressure to have all these deadlines and get things done. And that's one of the things too, where it's like, if I'm giving myself the time that I take to work with clients and they're loving that and I'm loving that, and what other ways of my life can I give myself more time? Yeah. And so living without being in a pressure cooker has been that's where the slowing down has happened, where it's like, oh, okay, I can do this too. And it feels fine. Everything's fine. Yes. And I'm okay.
I'm actually better than okay. Like, I love your reflection on this, because I think you're highlighting something really profound, which is that the neural pathway, like the circuit that's like, I work best under pressure, like recognizing that that's a pattern that has worked. And I'm putting that in quotes for those who can't see me. It's worked in a certain way because it helped you achieve certain results. It helped you to bring something out of yourself. So then at some point though, there was a part of you that said, I don't really want to be under this pressure all the time. It's probably not great for my nervous system. I don't want to be in a pressure cooker all of the time. So then the question, like, to solve for that is, how do I create the same result without having to be in a pressure cooker to get there.
Right.
What else would have to be true? What could I wrap around, or how could I set myself up with a system to create that same result without having to go through so much stress? And that is mastery navigation to me. That's where we start to refine our processes so that they are elevated and that they're supporting us rather than depleting us.
Right.
And that is a very interesting one, because it's common, is that a lot of people will wait until the very last second to pay their bills.
Yeah.
They will, I know, there are people who will say, I'm going to call that person back, but they wait until the very last second to do it. Or like they're constantly putting themselves under stress because they need that motivation, that stress motivation to create an action, a reaction in them. But you hacked that in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, it's still there. It's part of me. I could either use it to my advantage or not at all. But that's my decision too, right? Now I'm just so aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you now get to make a conscious choice. Whereas before it was just running on autopilot.
Yes.
Now for you it's...
Yeah. Before it was an unconscious program. I would just operate that way. That's who I was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people who have those unconscious programs running the show, and it's below the level surface, and we know it's like, does it have to be that way? And we think it's normal because a lot of other people are running with the same programs. Yeah, huge shift. It's one of the many, but huge.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I think when it comes to meeting that boulder, when we start to ask ourselves, like, how? I've been stuck in the how like many times. And the one thing that I know that you've taught me really well is, what's the first step? Just asking myself, okay, so if you're getting stuck there, then what is the first smallest step that you can do? And sometimes it is just going outside. I'm like, okay, I have space to think, right? And it doesn't even have to be part of like what you're trying to accomplish. Just even taking that first step to maybe reset and recalibrate by taking yourself out of that environment, so then you can be more productive when you come back.
Yeah,
is also a huge way to get around that boulder.
Absolutely. Like, I love what you're saying, and I really feel like, we talk about these patterns that we have under the surface, and a sub-program that we can bring online in our brains is how to interrupt those patterns.
Yes.
When that sub-program is not active, the pattern just runs. And even when it's happening, we know, like, this isn't really how I want to be playing this out. But we don't really know what else to do. When we're able to consciously start applying a pattern interrupt, we get to take the power back from the pattern and almost starve it of energy. Like if you think of a pattern as having an electrical plug that's plugged into the wall, it's like taking the plug out of the wall for a second so that something else can do the thinking and the navigating.
Yeah.
And this is where I think we are able to take the power back over our brain and over its functioning, and start to redirect that energy into different ways, because there's always a way around that boulder.
Right.
There's always, so just the one step, just what is the first thing that I can do? I really love.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it brings so much simplicity to it. And it's probably not going to turn out the way that you expected, because majority of the time when I pattern interrupt something and ask myself, what's the smallest step that I can take that'll get me somewhere today, it has nothing to do with the task at hand.
Yeah.
It just needs some sort of recalibration to just shift a way of thinking.
Absolutely. Well, if you think about a neural pathway as being almost like a rut in a road, like a tire track that's gone really deep, and the mud has all hardened around it. All that we really need to do is just take the tire out of the track, out of the mud. So it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with that. It's just, how do I interrupt this pattern? And like you going outside, you standing up, you choosing to like take a walk or take a few deep breaths, whatever it might be. Like, there's so many ways that we can create that pause. You were talking about the pause earlier. It's kind of the same idea. We take that pause and we extend it, and now we can make a new conscious choice. But I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to integrate. I'm sure it took some time.
No, that building, if we're going to see it from the standpoint of like building a neural pathway, it's like just even to just build that awareness and claiming and acknowledging, I'm not okay with this. That takes a while until you can see that part of yourself to ask yourself, then what's the next step? There's a bridge there that just, it needs to be built, but it requires the consistency of feeling the ick with what you don't want. And also knowing that you have choice. And the way to kind of like build that bridge is to just constantly ask questions, to just be like, okay, I just told myself I don't like that, and yet I keep on doing it. And being really honest with yourself and making the decision to be like, okay, if I don't like it, then what? You know, and that's what helps shift. But it's definitely, it's practice. It's practice.
Yeah, and you know, I feel like a lot of people would look at this and say, you know, without support, it would be really hard to make that shift, you know, because I think that we all think this at some point. I think you know, at any point in life, there are times where we look around and we say, there's something I want to shift, or there's something I want to change. But it can be really hard to do it without that support,
It's
you know.
true.
And so for you, like what were some of the things that helped you to stay with the process? Because when we're rewiring a neural pathway, there's this gap between like when we start to break apart the old neural pathway to when we build the new one. And in that gap, I think that's where a lot of us get lost.
Yeah. I think, you know, for me, it was to even just be clear of this concept of the pressure cooker that I kept on putting myself in. And having you just say like, until now, like you change that right now.
Yeah.
Because it was an observation that you saw of me speaking those words, and your reaction created a reaction within me to think a different way. And if I didn't see that often enough, then I would have just continued on that pathway to think that being in a pressure cooker was like the best thing to do.
When you look, I love what you're saying. When you look out at the world, are more people mirroring pressure cooker mentality, or are more people mirroring peace? I'm asking, what are your thoughts?
I would say, like in the general society.
In the general society.
I would say pressure cooker.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to shift a pattern, having that mirror is not necessarily going to help us, because we see everybody else being in pressure cooker. It's like, how do I change that then?
And then when you come across somebody that's like grounded and centered and just, there's just so much ease, it's almost nerve-wracking. Because it's like, why?
Oh my God.
How can you be so slow?
Right.
It's such an interesting observation, you know? It's like, if we take into that concept too of like the people within our bubble, or who we associate with, are a direct reflection of who we are and what are they reflecting to us. My kids are like that for me on a daily. I always tell my clients who have kids that my kids are like the mirrors to my soul, and the depths of like what I need to work on the most to be a good mom and to be a good person on this planet. And they reflect to me so much because they're in constant, I want to say, like reaction to my reaction.
Yeah.
And if I don't stop that reaction, then we're just reactive towards each other and there's no resolution. So whenever I can feel that reaction from them, it's a reflection of maybe 2 steps prior to maybe I've reacted to something that they've done and they're not okay with it. So then I'm the parent that says, okay, rewind. Like, what happened here? And then it ends just like implementing that pause and just being able to just be like, maybe I need to apologize for my behavior, you know? Yeah.
As a mom, I can completely relate to that because, you know, there have been moments with my children where I have noticed, you know, if they're about to spiral, and if I get really calm, then their mirror neurons in their brain is actually picking up that calm energy. They're so much less likely, it's not like a foolproof tactic, but they are so much less likely to spiral as high and as far and as deep as when, like, if I were to get all amped up, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire.
Exactly.
But when I stay calm, that their mirror neurons are reflecting that. So like you, my kids are my greatest teachers by far. And what I see, you know, within society a lot of the time is that we are, you know, this is almost like we are trying to get from, you know, rock climbing, you know, you're on the ground, and I think of bouldering where like you've got a couple of handholds in front of you, and then there's like the top handhold that's really high up there. And the difference when we're in society and we're being surrounded by the same mentality or a lot of the same ideas and values is that there's a big gap from these bottom handholds to the one up the top. There's nothing in between. But when we get ourselves into containers and into spaces with people who are mirroring that, it's like having all these handholds to be like, there is a way to do this. Stay the course, because we usually don't see results quickly when we're trying to make these changes.
And that's one of the things that I see, you know, as a massage therapist, is that kind of like results driven concept where it's like people want to feel good like right away, and though sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes there's a health crisis, and that also needs to be there in order to give you something to work with, right?
Right.
It's that one step in front of the other. It's definitely not, it's not always there. It's not there at all. But what it requires is your consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And staying connected to what is important to you, what it is that you're trying to build or create. Like for you, you knew that you wanted to have a business, you wanted to provide value to people through that business, and you also wanted to be there for your kids. You wanted to be a mom. You want to travel. You love certain things and wanted to build those into your life. And there was probably a moment where it was like, okay, I can either keep struggling to do this, or I can start to embody this.
Yeah.
And I get to make that choice about that shift.
And so, like, even with that, you know, my concept of success and being an entrepreneur is so different from how I started. Like, I want to say the way that I started it was seeing it through the eyes of my parents, of how I would see business through their eyes. And, you know, my dad, when he was living in the Philippines, he was an optometrist and he had his own clinic. And when I started to have my own clinic, a lot of my own patterns that I didn't even know that I had when it came to people pleasing, self-sabotage patterns started to really come up. And I had to ask myself in a really honest way, like, where did this come from? Because I don't know that I'm operating this way until I'm like either in a therapy session or somebody's reflecting it back to me. And so now my concept of business is so different, where it's like I need to work, my business needs to work for me.
Yes.
I don't need to work for my business. And that's one of the reasons why I built it the way it is it provides me freedom every day.
Would you say that you also have greater enjoyment and do like have a better space for your clients because you're now being nourished by the business as well?
100%. There's less square footage. Like now I'm just down to one treatment room, and I realized that there was a point in time where I was struggling with so many practitioners and having a bigger business. And I remember telling another business coach at the time, like, I just want a treatment room. And she's like, remember you said that. And that's where I'm at now, is like 2 treatment rooms, 3 practitioners, including myself. And it's sweet.
I love that.
Yeah.
Way to go, Suzy.
Yeah, thank you.
If people want to find you so that they can have a massage that's more than a massage, where should they be looking for you?
Definitely on my website first, so www.revealwellness.ca. and they can fill out the contact form on there that just drops right into my email, and that would be the best point of contact first.
And is that the same place that people can find you if they're a massage therapist who's looking for some mentorship and looking to do a little bit of what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Instagram is always fun too. I'm not usually on the socials, but any way that a message can just drop either through text or email is probably the best way to get a hold of me.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom and your journey with us, Suzy.
Thank you.
So good.
Thanks for having me.